Hi everyone, I'm Abby with You Can Do Art Studio in Webster Groves, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Mosaic Cardinal plaque kit. So this is an indoor no-grout mosaic with a little keyhole on the back for hanging, and it is a great way to show your team spirit for our St. Louis Cardinals. First, I'm going to show you everything that's in your kit. You've got your set of instructions here. This has all the information about what the kit includes and what you need to do to make this kit. I'm going to be showing you everything on this video, but you can also follow along with your instructions if you would like to. Next up, you've got your Cardinals plaque here. This is a wooden plaque, and it's got this sheet of black glue on it. So this is the glue that we're going to be using to stick all our tiles onto our plaque. It's wrapped in this bit of parchment paper here, just so it doesn't get bent or wrinkled while you're taking it home. Next up, you've got a bag of tiles here. This is a lot of different shapes and sizes of tiles. We have a bottle of red paint here, and you've got a little old toothpick. So something else that you're going to need that we haven't included in our kit is a paintbrush. We recommend using a 1/2-inch flat paintbrush like this one, and we sell them in our studio for $3.95. So the first thing you want to do is have an adult preheat the oven to 225 degrees. That's because this glue is actually going to melt in the oven, and when it dries, it'll cool and have all the tiles stuck in really nicely. So first, have an adult preheat your oven to 225 degrees. The first step for a Cardinals plaque like this is actually going to be painting the whole thing. So I'm going to set up my station so that I am ready to paint. So now I am all ready to paint. I've got everything set up. I have my plaque here. I took the glue and the parchment paper and set it aside because we're just going to need that later. My tiles are also set aside, and I squeezed out a little bit of paint onto this paper plate, and I've got my paintbrush ready to go. My paint and my paintbrush are on my right side because I'm right-handed, and that's what I'm going to pick it up with. So the first step to painting your plaque is to paint the edges here. I'm just going to get a little bit of paint on your paintbrush and very carefully paint the edges there. And obviously it's okay if some paint gets on here and here because we're going to paint that anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and paint my edges all the way around. So now my edges are all painted. So the next step is going to be to paint the back. So I'm just going to set my plaque down. And when you paint large surfaces like this, you want to make sure you're using long, smooth strokes in one direction, like this. I just picked horizontally. You can do it vertically if you want, but make sure to do long, smooth strokes in one direction. You don't want to do a lot of little paints like that because it won't look as nice and finished and professional. So just long, smooth strokes in one direction like this. And you're going to do this over the whole back of your plaque, and then you're going to do the same thing on the front. If you need to dry it off at all to move it around or handle it a little bit, you can have an adult help you with a hairdryer. A hairdryer dries the paint really nicely and quickly. So I'm going to paint the whole back of my plaque, and then I will paint the whole front, and I'll dry it off with a hairdryer. You also want to make sure to smooth out any drips that get on the edges. So sometimes when you paint on the sides, there are drips of paint that drip down to the edges. So just go along and smooth out those drips really nicely with your brush. So now I have finished painting my plaque. It is painted on all sides and all the edges, and it is nice and dry, and it's this really beautiful shade of red. Fun fact about the St. Louis Cardinals team, they used to be called the Perfectos, and they wore red uniforms. And then one day a reporter heard a woman say, "What a lovely shade of cardinal red," when she was talking about their uniforms. So he used the word cardinal in his column, and then the name just stuck. So now they're called the St. Louis Cardinals. So that's a fun fact. I'm going to get everything out of my way so I can work on the tiles. So I'm going to get my paper plate and paintbrush out of the way, and I'll put my bottle aside. I still have some extra paint, so maybe I'll paint something else and I can use this in another project. So I've got a pan here, and I put my parchment paper that my glue was wrapped in. I put that parchment paper on the pan so my cardinal can bake. And he's just going to sit in there. So this is going to be more convenient because then I can just take this whole pan to the oven. Next, I'm going to put my sheet glue on top. So this is a thick film glue. It's a wax-based glue. And if you've come to You Can Do before, you might have used a different kind of glue. We do use a lot of different glues for mosaics here at You Can Do. This is just a really convenient option, and we picked the black one because it looks really nice against the red. You'll also notice that you can see a little bit of a border, and that's because this is shadow cut. That means there's a little bit of space so you can see the edge, because sometimes when we put the film in the oven, when it melts out a little bit and drips over the sides, and we don't want that, so that's why we shadow cut it. And then I've got all my tiles here. So I'm just gonna dump them out nicely by me. So you'll see you have a lot of more traditional tiles like these ones, but you also have some super cute artsy additions like this bottle cap, or a little star, or the eye that we're gonna use on our cardinal. So these artsy additions are actually great because they work with this thick film. You couldn't have a grouted mosaic with these. So that's another great part about this thick film, that you can use these other little fun pieces. So I'm really just going to lay out my tiles how I feel like doing it. I definitely want this yellow beak here, and I know I want my eye there. So something to remember when laying out your tiles is you don't want too much space in between your tiles, because sometimes the glue will pop and get air bubbles, and you'll still be able to see the red underneath, but we think it looks a little bit better if you have all the tiles pretty close together. And you can really lay out the tiles any way you want. You can also totally create your own thing. It's really up to you with this project. And if you want to, you could even paint this little clothespin red before you put it on there. We also have a little wooden heart here. You could paint that red too. So again, it's really up to you and your creativity. So I'm going to go ahead and lay all my tiles out onto my cardinal. And when you're arranging your tiles, this is just how I'm doing mine so far. Remember that this glue actually isn't sticky yet. So you are going to be able to move your tiles around and shift them while you're still putting them on. So this is great because you can change your pattern, but you also have to be careful that you don't accidentally knock this and send all the tiles flying. So now my plaque is all finished. I went ahead and painted the clothespin and the heart just because I felt like it. I just used a little bit of my extra red paint, and then I dried it off with a hairdryer like I did with the cardinal plaque. So you're all finished with this part here. The last thing to do is have an adult put this whole tray in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. That way the glue, the film is going to melt underneath, and then when it comes out and dries and cools, it'll seal the tiles in there really, really nicely. And then right after it comes out, the tiles might have shifted a little bit because it melted. So make sure an adult is the one who is shifting your tiles back into place if any of them moved a little bit. You can also take that time to pop any air bubbles that showed up in between the tiles. Sometimes there are little air bubbles in the film, and you can just pop them with your toothpick. So I'm going to go put this in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes, and I will be back when it is done. So I just took my plaque out of the oven, and I can see a couple air bubbles, so I'm just going to carefully pop those with my toothpick, just like that. And it doesn't look like any of my tiles have shifted too much, so I'm just going to let it be, but I also have these tweezers in case I wanted to move anything around. So I'm going to let my plaque cool, and then it will be all finished. So my plaque is nice and cooled now, and it is all finished. I love the way it turned out. I had an awesome time making it, and I hope you guys had a great time too. You'll notice I still have some extra tiles and some extra paint, so I'm going to save these for later, and maybe I'll add them to another project. So I hope you guys had a great time making this. I hope this video was good too. We'd love to see what other designs you came up with, and you can find more awesome kits like these at our store in Webster Groves or online at youcando.com. Have a great day!